Welcome to the Death Curse Club. I am Zach, and we have an interview for you today. We have the cinematographer for a film, Sleep Stalker. Sleep Stalker is about a couple that bought a house. They are a DIY couple, and they are vlogging, filming their entire experience. And when that entire experience goes spooky, stuff goes down. And I am very honored to have the cinematographer of that film on the show today, Jeffy Can. He's awesome. It's a great conversation. If you want to learn about how the use of the camera really plays in this found footage film and how we can make it feel big all at once while going down to the most claustrophobic feel you have ever seen, this is the interview for you. So let's show you the trailer for the movie.
Hey, babe. Look at the home, babe. We're at the new house.
We have lemons.
We bought it sight unseen. We have no idea what we're getting ourselves into. My buddy Ryan, electrician. We're gonna have to rip these up. If that doesn't fix it, we gotta... Well, that was weird. I love you. I'm glad we did this.
I love you too. Shane? Babe?
Wait, you did something freaky last night.
What are you doing?
You don't remember this.
No.
This is a rare case of parasomnia.
Babe, what are you doing?
How long has this been going on?
Ever since we moved.
Okay, no, what? No.
We'll set up infrared cameras.
Seriously. I'm messing around with the Ouija board, right?
All the viewers want to know,
Something is happening to me.
how does it feel to be a homeowner?
We have the sleep specialist, we have the therapist.
I'm afraid to go to sleep at night.
Have I ever been this crazy about anything supernatural? No.
There's something on you.
What am I doing?
You bring a medium? If there's a ghost, I don't care.
Just focus. I'm going to count to 3. 1,
It's all in your head.
2, 3.
Jeffy Can. Welcome to the show, Jeffy.
Hey, Zach. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no. Thank you so much for coming on. The first thing I want to get your thoughts on are there's a lot of YouTubers, influencers, vloggers out there. And one of the big takeaways that I got from this was it's about a couple who have that as their occupation, and they have this DIY show where they're teaching you how to rebuild and stuff like that, and that becomes a very prominent role in this movie. Was that always the case in the script of making this film? And you know, being a cinematographer, for like, how do you implement that style, vlogging, influencer, into something like this?
Yeah, I think as far as I know, it was always the concept. When I got in touch with Justin and Rob, that was sort of like the pitch. And like that's kind of what drew me. I thought it was pretty interesting, and I thought it was well motivated. You know, like there's a lot of found footage horrors out there. I mean, I've seen maybe just the more prominent ones like Blair Witch and Paranormal.
Right.
I always thought was like, you know, the concept really made sense. The conceit was what drove the found footage of it. And this one I thought worked well, and it was also like very relevant and connected with me because, you know, early on in my career, I did work with a lot of YouTubers, and I actually did work with a pretty famous YouTuber couple.
Yes.
That did DIY, like renovations. And so when they, when I heard about this concept, I was just like, oh my God, this like really hits home for me. And I like, you know a good amount about it. And it blended a little bit of my career history as well as like my film passion and just narrative and horror in general.
Right.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, it was, I think, always the original concept, and it kind of just blended a bit of my experience and things I loved, and, you know, just kind of made total sense.
Right. And I don't want to like give spoilers for what happens in the film, but there is a point, the way that this film's put together, it's like footage from their socials and film from a medical standpoint of things, from like sleep doctors and therapists and such. And I was interested in the fact that the shots were done differently, and I'm guessing that is on purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, so that part honestly was a little bit of a struggle because the most of the script kind of called for the selfie vlog style, which all made sense, and we kind of had that all planned. And then there was a couple scenes where, yeah, we're with the sleep psychiatrist or sleep therapist, and also the psychiatrist, and I got a little hung up on how does this work? How's the format work? Like, obviously they're not bringing their selfie tape in, and when we spoke with the directors and producers, and they were just like, well, it does kind of make sense that the doctors would tape the sessions, let the audience know. It was in the script. I can't recall if that line actually comes across in the edit. But they kind of just say, hey, like, we're going to tape this for our review so we can help analyze and prescribe, and also keep track of progress. So like that was written into it. I don't remember if it makes it in the final edit. So it kind of helps justify the way we shot it. In hindsight, seeing it, I kind of wish we shot it a little more lo-fi, because in some ways I feel like it came out looking a little bit too nice. Like maybe that should have been just like straight up more camcorder.
Right.
The vloggers, they shoot with like high fidelity cameras.
Like high res style.
Right, exactly. That's normal nowadays. Like people shoot with pretty nice cameras. Like there's a lot of content creators that even shoot with like red and airy cameras today. So like that I felt like was normal. But yeah, in hindsight, I kind of wish that we shot the doctor interviews with like more camcorder stuff. And the funny thing is, like, that was actually the original conceit, is that we were going to have the whole film shot with camcorders.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And prep and camera test, we looked at the footage and we just weren't happy with it, especially with the low light. And I was like, if this goes onto big screens, it's just going to be, not great at all. And so we kind of talked about it. And so we accepted that, like, a lot of filmmaker or a lot of content creators, especially YouTubers, like use something like the A7S III, which we ended up using. So we're like, this is a perfect justification to use a pretty damn good camera for what it is,
Right. What's really impressive about the film, outside of sometimes when they went to see the therapist or anything like that, it's all done in one location. How was it, like, how many days did this take? I mean, some films take 2 weeks to a month, depending on budget, but like, what was the process of just being in this one locale and trying to be innovative every single time?
Yeah, I think we did it in less than 2 weeks. So it was pretty intensive. But yeah, the like 80% being in one location was a big driver of it. So like we could leave a lot of our camera and lighting gear like mostly set up, and we were very strategic about block shooting certain locations. And our actors were so great about jumping across the timeline, to kind of be like, let's shoot all the night stuff, let's shoot all the day stuff, and they were able to kind of keep track, which was really impressive, because even though I think there was an original script, the directors chose to break it down into more of an outline, so that the actors kind of like improv, like there was almost just like beats that they had to hit, but I think it made it feel more natural, like as if they were really just vlogging, as if YouTubers would really do. Like, we're just kind of talking about what we're doing, knowing that we just had to hit these main story beats in each take. So I think that's also what made it possible. And so instead of like having to say we have to get through 10 pages today, which would like probably feel aggressive on a normal shoot, they were just kind of like, well, we just have to get through these scenes and hit these story beats. And it was pretty flexible, because if it doesn't happen today, it can happen tomorrow. And if good things unfold in sort of the improv jazz that happened, like it's cool, and so there was a little bit of flexibility in that. And it was like really kudos to the performers to really bring that out,
Right. That's actually a really Blair Witch style of it. Like, from what I've seen, they were given beats to do. So the fact that you kind of carry that on in a different version of found footage is pretty interesting. So The third act, it gets really condensed because like we're revving up, we're getting to that finale, and again, not spoilers, but camera wise, what's interesting for me is that the lighting that you use when everything goes dark and the camera is now, we're POV, we're going along for the ride, the lighting choice where it like is just a circle felt very claustrophobic to me. Was that like your choice to do this to make it more intense, more eerie?
Yeah, definitely. We were thinking a little bit about like how to approach these night scenes, and it's a little bit of collaboration with Justin, Rob, and I, and we talked about like, oh, is it weird that in these intense moments, Abby would grab the camera, and we're like, no, it's kind of normal for vloggers like to just film everything. But on
Yeah.
top of that, it's like if we justified it with being like there's just a built-in on-camera light, which is very normal for vloggers as well, then that's like an
Right.
instinct to be like, let me just grab the camera, which I always have around, and plus it's like a flashlight.
Right.
But of course, a lot of these on-camera flashlights, they're like beauty lights, so they just like flood light. So we kind of like built like a little snoot to create this little circle and create this vignette and make some claustrophobic moments, and that allowed us to like hone in lighting on the frame and do things outside of the frame. And like if someone were to like pass through the frame or have something going on the edge, like it's a little hidden but still in the frame. And yeah, I think it just definitely made it feel so much better. Like when we first did our camera, actually even our first scene we shot, we put on the light and it just blew up the world. Like it's impressive how these little lights just kind of like do their thing, and we're like, wait, this weirdly still looks like a beauty vlog at night. So we like had to stop the scene, and I like started creating a little snoot to like get that effect, and we were like, this is the move, and let's just do this for all night stuff moving forward.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You've mentioned them, Justin and Rob, the writers, directors of the film. What is it like working with two directors in this kind of atmosphere? Because I mean, you see tag team directors a lot, but I don't know how that comes off vision wise, especially for something that is found footage.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it worked extremely well. They're just both very collaborative, and I think I don't exactly know their process, but I think but before it all, they have a little bit of like lanes that they kind of help stay in, and I don't know, like they had a previous project. I don't know if it was the exact same for that, but it seems like Rob was a little more on the producing side, and Justin was a little more on the writing side. But they like equally still collaborated, and like whenever we
Right.
were stuck, there was just like a full-on conversation, and it was just like people pitching ideas, and there was no ego, and it was just the best idea wins.
Right.
And like even talent came in, like Shane and Josh, who played Shane, and
Yeah. Yeah.
Gabby, who played Abby, who that like
Gabby
that,
Abbey.
and Justin's wife Allie, like it was just kind of a hodgepodge of creative
Wow.
this energy, and it's really what made the project so fun. Like honestly, despite being such a micro budget, tight schedule thing, like we just all had a blast, and yeah,
Right.
it was just a good time.
I think I have to ask the stereotypical question from anything in a paranormal setting, especially utensils are used in this movie that cause weirdness about in the world, but like was there anything eerie about filming this, especially when Ouija boards get brought out? Did you guys going under that crawl space was anything like, all right, this is a little unsettling?
The crawl space was gnarly for sure. It was kind of like, definitely not. It's like it's a straight up crawl space, and there was very little prep to do for that. I mean, we
Right.
had to like do some lighting because that was a challenge, but other than that, it just like presented itself straight up as eerie. Um, yeah, I mean, some of the other things, I don't know how many of us are really too superstitious. So
Right. Right.
the Ouija board and like the gags we're setting up ourselves, so like that wasn't as eerie, but the performances were like when Josh, got into his zones, there were times where, like, the secret is like I'm actually operating the camera most of the time.
Okay.
So that, it's like Gabby and I would be like hunched together, and we'd be like, this is really actually kind of freaky. Like we're out there in the middle of the night, and there's a scene where Shane's blasted with all this water, and he's like
Hmm.
shirtless, and it's pretty freaking cold. We like shot this in December, and
Oh
he's
wow.
just is unflinching. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, you're kind of freaking me out. Like it's
Yeah.
freezing cold and I have my sweater on and you're just like shirtless and wet and just like stone cold look at like right at us. And it's
Right.
extra eerie because like I've shot horrors before and when I'm looking in the monitor, usually
Hmm.
it's like, whatever horror element or actor, they're looking at the character. So the eye line's off. But here I'm
Right.
looking in the camera and they're looking in the camera too. And so
Right.
I'm like, there's like a level of connection with the operator that is like, oh, this is kind of freaking me out at times. So
Right. Like
yeah,
you're the audience. Like you're
yeah,
living what we're supposed to be living.
totally. Yeah. I got really connected with Gabby through
Mm-hmm.
Abby's character because we would have to be so close often.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is kind of 50-50 perspective, but in some ways, because of how the story unfolds, I want to
Mm-hmm.
say it's like slightly more through Abby's perspective, especially when you're
Yeah.
looking through the vlog.
Right.
So, like as I said, I'm operating, so oftentimes, it gets a little intimate. Like I'm, tucked in, like next to her,
Mm-hmm.
behind her, or when I'm flipped around, it's like we're often having someone holding my hand as I'm holding the camera. So a
Wow.
lot of times I really have to like see everything through her point of view, and her body language also has to translate through me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever she's doing, if she starts to run or whatever, like I have to relay that through the camera. So
Right.
in a lot of ways, like, I'm not really an actor by any means.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I had to channel that. I was like, oh, the camera is a character, and it's an
Mm-hmm.
extension of Shane or Abby, depending on the scene. And so, like, I had to like get into their point of view and just be their eyes in a way.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
sure, yeah.
That's sweet. Um, to look at your Instagram and stuff to get off the movie just for a bit, like, I looked at your Instagram. You have beautiful shots of being in the outdoors and going about, and I saw that you've worked on History Channel specials hosted by, like Dan Aykroyd or Dennis Quaid. That's his name. So you film a lot of kind of these reenactment scenes. Do you deal with a bunch of horror through that? And how do you find the locations to specifically show these events?
Yeah, we actually I've done a lot of series with History Channel. And the first one I did was called Dark Marvels. It
Mm-hmm.
was posted with any celebrities, so I think it went a little under the radar, but it was one
Mm-hmm.
of my favorites. And the entire series was just dark in nature, so it's all horror. It was like an episode
Wow.
themed on history or instruments of death, an
Mm-hmm.
episode on like torture, an episode on like like spy agency. So every
Right.
episode is kind of like some of the darkest things that humans have done to each other.
Wow.
And what we ended up doing, because the budgets were so tight, it just felt like we had to cover all of space and time. We'd have stuff from like ancient, medieval torture up to, CIA torture methods. And so
Mm-hmm.
we'd shoot that sometimes in the same day. And it's like, well, that's not really possible to go from, this type of, rural town village to, CIA office. So we ended up just trying to do some type of virtual production. And at the
Wow.
time, LED volume was not within our budget. So we actually went old school and did rear projection. And
No way, really?
yeah.
Wow.
And so at first everyone was like, no, that's like outdated. That's not going to work. That's like,
Mm-hmm.
Hitchcock scenes driving in a car, which worked amazing at the time, but you watch it now
Right.
and you're kind of like, all right, like you have to
I
see
could see it.
it, right? But I
Yeah.
think we just like we kept certain techniques where we shot it tight and we like really built layers.
Mm-hmm.
And we really like built the camera in a way like on a jib with a remote head. So there's a lot of movement. So there's just like a lot
Mm-hmm.
tricking the eye to kind of help you believe that that's there.
Wow.
So yeah, a lot, like I would say like 80% of it's virtual production, and same with the Dan Aykroyd show and the Dennis
Mm-hmm.
Quaid show. Like
Right.
some of them lean a little less horror. Dan
Yeah.
Aykroyd's like adjacent. It's like sometimes horror, but a little more in the supernatural,
Right, sci-fi.
sci-fi world. And Brave
Right.
was like both. It was like religious stuff, and there's like a lot of dark side with the religious stuff, but it's more about like people warring or people fighting and people killing each other, like trying to get like the Ark of the Covenant, very Indiana Jones.
Right.
So it has like that.
Right.
But yeah, all of it's shot like rear projection, and that's how we kind of get to these places. But I
Mhm.
think what really led me to keep doing all this stuff is that the look we established in Dark Marvels, like
Mhm.
we went pretty damn moody, pretty dark, pretty like they were
Mhm.
like they said things like we want to feel Fincher, we want to feel like noir, we want to feel like really horror. So like we just kind of leaned into it, and it of course like worked for the concept of the show. So yeah, it's
Right.
really enjoyable, and I learned a lot through all of this, a lot of random crap in history through all place and all time, and I
Right.
learned a lot about like we shoot anywhere from like 5 to 10 totally different scenes in a day. So just
Holy
kind of
moly.
it's like a crash course on like shooting like 1,000 different shorts.
That's wild. That
Yeah.
is wild, dude. And again, looking at your Instagram, you go out to the amazing places. Like, I'm guessing just because you love the outdoors, and you take amazing pictures. And I was wondering what came first. Was cinematography, going to film school, your first passion, and then you fell for photography, or did photography come first and then you've used that to cinematography?
It was photography when I
Yeah.
was pretty young, like I want to say like 11 or 12. My grandpa gave me like an old film camera.
Hmm.
So I shot with that a lot. I didn't really like spend the money to develop the film, so it was more shooting than reviewing. But by the time
Right.
I got into high school, I got a digital camera, and so then I really got into photography. And yeah, I kind of had grew a love for the outdoors. I went hiking a lot, so that just kind of came hand in hand. But when
Right.
I was kind of thinking about career past high school, just some weird thought in my mind occurred that just like, oh, I don't know if it's practical to make a living as a photographer, but
Hmm.
I bet you could make a living making some movies. That was, no kidding, my train of thought, and then I
That's
just went
awesome.
for it. And like in hindsight, I was like, and this was before Instagram, like So
Right.
in hindsight, I was like, oh my god, there's so many people making like crushing it just on Instagram, and I was like, man, the film industry is freaking hard.
You
Um,
you thought you were going down the right path, man.
yeah, yeah. But I'm glad because I feel like I kept photography as like a hobby, so it's just still like a
Right.
passion, and I still do outdoor stuff and travel, and
Right.
not as much now. Like I'm just busy with my career and family. I've got a small kid, and so
Yep.
yeah, that's kind of like fallen by the wayside. But I still enjoy that. It kind of stays like a personal thing for me. And then
Right.
cinematography, I've learned to just like love whatever I do. Like whether it's like horror narrative stuff, which is like one of my favorites, or sci-fi as well. But even if
Hmm.
when I shoot a rom-com, I'm having a blast. And even when I'm shooting
Right.
unscripted stuff, I'll shoot some reality stuff here and there. I'll shoot some talk show stuff here and there, and it's mainly just to continue making a living and to be able to have those moments where I can do the narrative, the horror, the sci-fi.
Right.
But I'm like, even when I'm like, I don't necessarily watch this content or enjoy it, but when I'm doing it, I still find myself like nerding out and being like, where does the lighting look the best? What's the best camera angle? And it's like some of those learnings you still take and apply to those other passion projects. So yeah,
Right.
I enjoy all of it.
Right. So, I guess my last question would be: does horror have a better use of? I don't want to say a better use. That's wrong. But like, it does seem horror has a better case to use film tricks or camera tricks to make it feel either bigger or smaller than say a rom-com. And you saying like, oh yeah, I like working on rom-coms as well, but is horror probably the most usage of any tricks that you have learned, or is it sci-fi, horror, action, all those have it? Is that making sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. But like some of my favorite films are horrors, or like
Okay.
horror adjacent, at least like Kubrick,
Thriller.
Fincher, and like a lot of those films are like what really got me into film. But yeah, I
Right.
think I do love horror in that I feel like it's the most like sensory driven genre, like visually and sound. It allows for so much experimentation, and those are the things that like truly drive it. I think, of course, like really great horror, like when I mentioned like, you know, Kubrick or Fincher,
Right.
or like modern day like Eggers or Asher. It's like they're even more story driven as well. I feel like that's
Right.
great, but I feel like, you know, even when you don't have that, when you have campy or whatever, like you can still have a really great experience just from the visuals and the sound. Versus like, I feel like you can't do that in a rom com. Like
Right.
you really, really need to like, you know, like if a rom
Right.
com, like you can't just have the prettiest looking rom com and you're like, you know, if there's no story and there's no like chemistry between your leads, like it's just not gonna.
Right.
Which I, you know, like
Right.
it's the same for horror. Like you need all the elements to make it great. But I think, you know, with the visual and the sound, there's enough to make it pretty good as well, and it, like you can experiment with it. And I think like this is like perfect example. Like, you know, when they first called me, I was like, oh, you know, I don't know if this is the right project for me. Like I thought there was a little more budget. I thought, you know, but then they really lured me in, and I was so glad that I did it because it was such a blast, and we got to be really creative. And I think, yeah, you can't do that as easily in other genres. All right, so I wouldn't dismiss other genres for sure, but I think in
No.
horror it just lends itself to like the experience.
Yeah. I definitely think in the last 10 years, it's one of the my favorite things about the genre, and I think what I don't like saying elevated horror, but a lot of people like saying it. So it has elevated horror in a sense. And I appreciate your work, and I thank you for this film, which people can check out on VOD right now. Sleep Stalker. It's on Amazon. It's on Fandango at home. Check it out. Thank you for coming on, Jeffy. If you want to plug anything else, please. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, just check me out on Instagram or IMDb. I'm always working on stuff, and I'm looking for people to collaborate with always. So, you know, hit me up if you want to shoot something. I'm down. Like, I just want to do stuff and have fun. So, let's do it.
Awesome. Awesome. Jeffy Can, thank you for coming on, my friend.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.